All right, everybody. So today we have Saad Ghani from the University of Illinois at Chicago College of Dentistry. Saad, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure being on your podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's go ahead and get started. If you can, please give us a brief summary of your dental school journey. So where you're from, where you went to undergrad, what you major in, and did you or did you not take a year off?
Okay, so for undergrad, I'm from Chicago, so like the southwest suburbs of Chicago. So in Bridgeview area,
Mhm,
it's about like a 45-minute commute to UIC, which I actually commute every day.
mhm.
And that's with traffic. Without traffic, it's about like 25 minutes. And I went to undergrad to UIC East Campus for like for 3.5 years, and majored in biology. And then that last half a year before dental school, I took that gap semester off, just enjoying my time, took a break, traveled a bit, just before I start getting dental school and start like locking myself down 8 to 5 every day.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so, okay, question. So you did three and a half
Mm-hmm.
years of
Yep.
undergrad. So you took your DAT pretty early, not early, but I guess the
Yeah,
normal
I would
time.
say early compared to most people. I took it after my sophomore year, before
Okay.
my junior year. So like that summer between sophomore and junior year, I had that summer off. I literally had nothing going on. I had no job, nothing, no traveling, no travel plans or anything. I just had that summer off. Like, you know what, might as well take the DAT because I took all the classes I need to in the
Yeah.
first 2 years.
Okay.
So I studied for like 3 months, 2.5 months, like from the end of May all the way, and I took it in August.
Awesome.
And that's when I took the DAT, and I got the score I needed the first time, so I didn't have to take it again and just apply the next year.
Okay. So I'm assuming you obviously got a great score. And so a lot of people always ask us, what is our number one tip with regards to doing well on the DAT? So what is something that you would tell a pre-dent,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be a resource or some type of like way of studying? Like what's that number one tip with regards to the
The
DAT?
one number one thing would be to have a schedule,
Mm,
because the one thing I've noticed is that once I have my schedule and my plan on my desk, and I actually follow it, everything else comes easy. Like sticking to the schedule is the most important thing to me, because if I start falling behind, or if I start like pushing things around a lot, I start getting too overwhelmed by everything.
yeah.
So like from the beginning, I started putting like a schedule, but like, yo, I'll do like the PAT was like 6 sections, right?
Yep.
So I'll do like a section each day, every day for an hour. And then the last day, I'll just take the whole PAT exam to see how I did. And I'll continue that doing it for like 2 months, because that first month of doing the PAT, you're not going to have any idea what to do, because you're starting to understand the PAT. It took me a month to understand what's going on in the PAT before I can actually study and get better at it.
Hmm.
And then for math, I'll be doing like once a week, or like everyday biology, organic chemistry and chemistry every single day, with some breaks obviously in between,
Right,
because I can go like all hand like 3 months,
right, right.
like take some breaks, like go out with friends, take a break to like socialize and whatnot. But at the same time, always every day, keep yourself to the task that you know you can do.
Awesome.
And like the resources I use, I would say, is the DAT Destroyer. Well, in the beginning, I used Kaplan, like the book for biology, and I
Hmm.
used Chad's videos. Those were amazing for organic chemistry and chemistry videos. They saved my life in DAT for the science portion. And then after that, I took the DAT. I used the DAT Destroyer to help me get better at taking the questions, because the DAT Destroyer questions were super hard.
Yep.
Like compared to the real DAT, the DAT is a breeze compared to the DAT Destroyer. So like if you can do better on the DAT Destroyer, you should be fine for the DAT, the real DAT.
Okay.
And in the reading, it's just you just read, and then you just have to like practice reading and do it like once a week.
As crazy as that sounds, right? But you do have to practice it a little bit, but not too much. But
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a different type of style on the
Yeah.
DAT than it is like in real life. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
But awesome, awesome. Okay, and so you went to UIC for undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, were there any type of like pre-dental, I guess, programs or like anything that gave you the opportunity to see what the actual school was like, or to even show your face to the admissions committee? Was there any opportunities like that?
Yeah, so the second, my sophomore year is when I joined the pre-dental club. That's when I got interested in dentistry, because I was originally pre-med, like I'm sure a lot of students were before
Mhm.
they decided between pre-med and pre-dent. And taking an EMT class is what helped me decide to do dentistry rather than medicine.
Mm.
Because as an EMT, I was like thrown into like the hospitals and like the medical field, more what's towards the medical field. And I didn't have any exposure to dentistry yet. And I was talking to my dad, who's a cardiologist, so he's already a doctor, and he already knew like the med school pathway, what it's like a hospital environment. So I was talking to him, and he was like, if you have some like, if you're feeling unsure about the med school field, check out dentistry. Like, go a shadow dentist, and let me know how that is. So I went to shadow a dentist, and the second I walked in, I just fell in love with it. Like I shook the hand with my Dr. Sammy. He's a dentist from UIC. About a couple of years ago, he graduated. And when I shadowed him, like the whole day, I was lost in time. Like by the end of the time, I didn't even realize it was 5 o'clock. And I started at 9 o'clock. I'm like, this went by so fast. I want to do this. So I went back to, and it was that patient relationship. It was like the stuff that I saw. I was like, I want to do this too. Right. Like the tooth extractions, root canals. I saw that in one day, and I was in love with that. So I went back home. I told my dad, I want to do dentistry. And he's like, yeah, that's a very good choice. Like he actually supported me with that. And ever since I went to school, I started looking for I went to join the pre-dental club at UIC, and they're very helpful because they give you a lot of resources to be able to go to the College of Dentistry and like interact with the students there. Like they have a thing called the pre-dental night, where you go out and you do an impression on a mannequin, and they help you do it. And that was a really fun night, and got me closer to the College of Dentistry and understood like the building and how it is.
Awesome. Okay. And so how was your interview? I think a lot of pre-dents are extremely nervous about the interview day. Can you kind of walk us through what it was like to interview at UIC?
I would say that the UIC interview, out of all the interviews I did, was the easiest one, the easygoing one. Okay. And that's why I kind of liked it a lot. So like the other interviews that I went on, they're kind of like drilling me with questions, like going question after question. I'm getting overwhelmed, like what is going on? But at UIC, it was so easygoing. They were just asking us questions. You're just mainly talking a lot about yourself. So you're talking more than they're kind of like getting to know you. So it's more of they want you to talk more than they want to talk and ask questions. They want to see if you can carry the conversation and make it like be able to talk a lot without having to like make an awkward silence, So, but they will still ask you some questions to carry on the conversation. So I would say it's pretty easygoing. Make sure you know your SGL stuff. That's very huge in UIC. And that's the one thing that they emphasize on. And so you have to do your research before going to the interview, know that what the UIC curriculum is like. So as SGL, we have like 8 students discussing about a case. And it's like a 3-day case where we just talk on Monday and Wednesdays, 9:30 to 12:30. And we just talk about a case. And it's really easy going. It's not too hard, but they actually like it a lot. And it's like a huge part of the curriculum.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's also called like some schools call it like PBL, like problem-based learning.
Problem-based learning, yeah. Or TBL, team-based learning, something like that. It's very similar.
Okay, awesome. And so, I mean, now that we're on the topic, can you kind of walk us through what it was like to actually be a D1 at UIC? So, oh no, I'm sorry. What year are you right now?
My what?
What year are you in right now?
I'm a D1, end of D1.
Okay, so you're in it right now. Okay, so awesome.
Yeah. So I'm online right now. So like everything's online due to the circumstances.
Right. So crazy situation. But let's say traditionally, like, can you kind of walk us through what your D1 year would have been like? What is your exposure to clinic? And do you all use handpieces yet or not?
Okay, so our first year was mainly focused on, so we had 2 portions. We had the DBCS, which is like biomedical sciences. So it's anatomy, biochemistry, and all that, dental, all that anatomy stuff. So like that's all science portion, and it's on Monday and Wednesdays usually. That's when we have the SGL sessions on Monday and Wednesdays, and then we have a bunch of lectures in the morning and anatomy or histology in the afternoon. But on Tuesdays and Thursdays is where we have either a wax lab or a clinic days. So Tuesdays are wax lab, where it's split into 2 groups, Group A and Group B. Like we're either in the morning session or the afternoon session. we have like a lecture in the beginning, and then we can go into the wax lab and start working on our wax ups, and be able to get some feedback from the clinical instructions, the clinic bench instructor sometimes. But there are some times where the lectures go on for way too long, where we have only like 30-20 minutes before we can to do our wax ups, and that's not enough time for the bench instructor to give us feedback. So it's oftentimes we have to go to their office hours. So that's one of the issues we were having, but we were able to figure that one out. And on Thursdays is our clinic times when we go to the clinic, and we just start out with like basic stuff, like PPE and in the beginning. But then towards the end, it gets really fun where you start getting like our hand pieces, start drilling, you start getting better at drilling, because in the beginning, you have no idea what you're doing. At first we were doing like a box prep, and like my box was not even a square. So like it was so bad, but like practice makes perfect. So like that's why they get you that exposure, so that by second semester of D1 year, you'll start doing class 1 preps, class 2 preps, amalgam fillings, composites, and that's when all the fun starts.
Right. Awesome. And so I've been asking every different student this question. What have you seen to be unique about UIC? And of course you haven't been to every dental school, but from your conversations with other dental students, like what's something that you can kind of say, like, what, I think UIC might be the only school that does something like this.
Well, so I would say with a lot of our D1s, talking with other students, a lot of our first year is kind of similar, because it's most focused on science, trying to get through that science before we get into clinical exposure and even patient exposure. So like what makes UIC unique is actually our D3 and D4 year, rather than our D1 and D2 year. So like I still haven't been able to get to the D3 year, D4 year to make a very educated explanation of what makes us unique, because I still haven't had exposure in D3 year. But I would say it's our patient population, especially because what we have always have access to our patients, no matter we never run out of patients. So like you can always get a patient where you can do a certain procedure. There's always a patient somewhere in this area that needs that procedure done. And so that's what makes it unique, because we can do like whatever procedures we need to do at any given moment.
Awesome. And so, okay, so, and actually that's actually very important. Like now that I'm a D3, about to be a D4.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like there's certain procedures that are really hard for us to find, like root canals. Like I think our graduation requirement is 5 canals. And it's extremely hard to get those 5 canals. So the fact that you all have this, this pool, this somewhat endless pool of patients and procedures, that's very important.
Yeah, because I'm like every morning on Monday to Friday, and whenever I walk to the building at 9:30, it's like we have like 4 floors in our building. Like the second and third floor is always packed at 9:30, like with patients waiting in the seating area, because they're just waiting for the D3s and D4s to come and get them. And I'm like, this is really nice to be able to see that you always have an influx of patients coming in. They're needing procedures to be done, needing dental treatment and everything.
And quick question, how big is your class?
It's about 65 to 70 students, depending on whether people deferred or dropped out or whatnot, but most of the time 70 students.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and so last question of the interview. If you, Saad, were able to go back in time and talk to yourself while you were initially going through the application cycle, what's one piece of advice that you would give to yourself?
Well, so I'm a traditional student, so I'm like that 3.5 years straight to dental school kind of student. And when I was going through the application cycle, I actually had my older brother next to me helping me out. Like he was like kind of my like advisor for the UIC undergrad portion, like because he went to UIC himself, and then he graduated, and then I went to UIC, so he already knew everything about UIC, and he told me what classes to take, how to like, and all that. So by the time I got to my application cycle, I pretty much had everything I needed in order to have a well-rounded application. And my brother was always there to check me, like, are you doing this? Are you doing that? You have that? Like he was doing his own research too. So I would say my advice was to keep listening to my brother, because like he did what I had. He helped me get to that point,
Right.
and I did that. I actually listened to that advice. So like I would say to to the Brito students that are going through the application cycle, get as much advice as you can, because advice is like amazing that you can get, because you can always get advice from different people and use that to your advantage to get the best possible pathway journey to that school.
Awesome, awesome. And we've enjoyed your advice today, so thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, like what's the best way that they can reach out to you in order to ask you those questions?
The best way would be Instagram. Why so Saad? So like why and then period period Saad. That's my Instagram account on profile, and then that'll be the best way to reach out to me.
Awesome, and of
And
course,
I follow back too.
of course, I'll put that in the description box. So everybody, please, Saad is an amazing resource. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to him. But Saad, like I said, from the FutureDDS family, we really do appreciate your time and your insight today, and you've been great. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on your vlog.
Of course, of course. Everybody, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. If you have any questions for us at FutureDDS, you can shoot us a DM at _FutureDDS on Instagram. But other than that, I guess we'll see y'all next time.